Everything's fine?
Yes, yes, everything is fine. The lockdown, I have not been able to have a haircut, and Rajkumar Rao shed some weight by shaving. I haven't been able to do that too. And the only thing I have with me is my coffee.
Oh, I cheers you with my coffee, sir. I mean,
Cheers.
it's coffee time, so yeah. Oh, I love how you have a French press, and
Yes,
that's a beautiful
that's the
visual
only
for me.
yeah, it's the only possession I have in my village house.
So, sir, tell me something about where you're staying, because this was before the lockdown that you actually shifted there and you wanted to take some time out, or what is it? What was it like?
Yeah, actually, it was not a lockdown. I mean, we were told that there was the infections were rising everywhere worldwide, even in India. I mean,
Yeah.
the increasing since February. So I mean, there was fear. We had informally my editing and everything. We had already moved it into the house,
Hmm.
and we had started a work from home policy much before. So we decided that if we have to work majorly from home, it's better to come to the village house, which is
Hmm.
on the outskirts of a hill station called Lonavla, which is approximately 150 odd kilometers from Mumbai and around 80 kilometers from Pune. So it's somewhere in between, nestled in the Western Ghats.
Hmm.
It's a small village called Malavli, where I stay, and Malavli is the uh, place where Raja Ravi Verma made uh, had his printing press.
Okay. Wow. That's fascinating.
Yeah, yeah. So you will see a lot of original Raja Ravi Verma paintings. The prints,
Okay.
the original prints would have a stamp of Malavli Press. So I am in that place. This is the question that I get every time,
Yeah.
and I am very patiently trying to answer it. Will we ever be able to see Ometa on OTT platforms, sir? Well, I don't know. I'm not the producer of the film,
Hmm.
and unfortunately, I don't have an answer for this, and
Hmm.
it's a situation that I'm not very happy about. But,
Yeah.
you have to live with it. We made a film that we believed in. We made a film that I'm very very proud of,
Hmm.
and if the producer is not doing anything about putting it on an OTT platform. It's sad, but I mean, he must be having his own compulsions.
Hmm. But sir, when you actually put out a post, also, I know that it was a painstaking process of filming it all together. You were
Yeah,
engrossed in this film. Rajkumar went all out to play this super negative character. We're talking about a time when the Pakistan court is already thinking about releasing, Umar Sheikh. So, in the view of these circumstances, when you see that everybody's talking about content on OTT platform, filmmakers like
yeah, yeah.
yourself, and this is the film that barely saw
So it
release,
is
and this
very.
is not before lockdown. And this is much before
I
lockdown.
know it's a sad situation, Griya, but I can't do anything about it. It's
Hmm.
directors unfortunately beyond the point have very little say unless they are also producing the film.
Hmm.
You know, in many ways, you know, uh, the writers, the Screenwriters Association, Javed Saab, I mean, they have done a lot to ensure some sort of copyright protection, IPR protection for writers. But directors, unfortunately, are not protected enough.
Hmm. Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people who attack us, saying, how can you demand that? Then you should publicize the film, then you should market the film. I
Hmm.
mean, that is a silly thing to say. It's a collaborative process. There's a producer, director, writer, cinematographer, everybody.
Hmm.
And generally in the Hollywood model, there's something called the residuals, where people are constantly part of the you know, non-theatrical and other ancillary revenues beyond
Yeah.
theatrical. So I feel that we also you need to move to that kind of a model. Directors need to have more ownership on their films.
There are very few filmmakers who will say things in black and white like you do. And I'm not saying it because I get to interview you today or whatever it is, but I have seen that earlier also. And it is, I'm not just talking about, let's say, let's put Omerta aside. Let's talk about,
Uh,
Masakali 2.0, where you were openly challenging, a production house deciding to actually dissect a classic song by A.R. Rahman, and how you also mentioned that sometimes as filmmakers you have to fall prey to these production houses or producers who would want to leverage for the sake of money or marketing for filmmakers to do something like this. So these things are very, very
look,
prevalent, and you have openly talked about it.
look. I mean, my taste in music is very different from my understanding of the film business. Okay, I understand that if a producer believes that recreating a song is going to earn him revenue, and if that revenue is going to help my film, and it is going to not affect the narrative of the film, it does not form part of the narrative, it becomes part of the promotion. I'm okay with it, but I mean, as somebody who loves music, I would like to, it's something I don't enjoy. I don't enjoy as a music lover.
Yeah.
And Masakali was a special song. That Delhi 6 album was a special album, and I felt it was tampered with. I mean, recreations could be also done by the original composer.
Yeah.
I just feel ki giving it to some third party. Yes, there is a possibility of interpretation and other things, but this was an experiment gone completely wrong, and I voiced my concerns as a music lover. I mean, a lot of people called me and said, you shouldn't be talking like this. I mean, if I have to remain quiet, then I might as well not, make films also, because film is about a filmmaker's voice. If you want
Right.
to silence my voice on whatever I feel, if I can't be outspoken, then where is the voice in my film?
Two films. One is Omerta, the other one is Chalang. Obviously because of COVID, the film was pushed. Are we seeing a release in June, hopefully, if situation normalizes, or we'll have to push it further? What is the situation? How does Chalang stand at the moment?
We have no, I cannot say much about it at this stage. My producers, Love Ranjan, T Series, and Ajay Devgan films. It's a decision that they will take. It's a business decision. It's a big film. It's a commercial film, and they have to weigh a lot of factors before they decide on the correct release date in the changed scenario. So it's a decision I've left entirely to them. It is their prerogative, and I will follow that prerogative. The film is complete, and it's a film that we love. It's a first in our filmography between Raj and me. For the first time, we have made a film which is a lot of fun, and
Yeah.
it's a film in which Raj, does not get arrested, does not die in the end. So it's a film that you will leave with a smile on your face. At the same time, it's a film that will keep you thinking.
Yeah.
It sort of addresses a social uh, microcosm.
Yeah. So that's actually, it was my next question. You preempted it. I wanted to understand. I mean, how, was it different? Did you see another facet to Rajkumar Rao's personality, because he's kind of your staple with each one of your films? This one is your fifth with him. So from that intense space to this comedy, social comedy space, were things different with between Raj and
Of
you
course,
also?
you see, with every film, we try our best to not repeat what we've done earlier.
Yes.
For me, the excitement of making a new film with Raj is to see what else I can push Raj to do. To explore a new aspect of him as an actor.
Yeah.
To interpret a new character with him as my muse. So I mean, this is a new part of our journey, and we are hoping. And this is a film. This is a commercial film. We want the film to make a lot of money. It is very important that this film uh, succeeds at the box office because uh, we really, I really want box office success for our team. It's a film made with a lot of love, lot of
Yeah,
effort, and I
yeah.
want to see that big box office success for our team. It gives us the power to make more films, to tell more stories.
Like the way you want to tell. Of course, that the financial security is very important, sir. But don't you think in a time like this, we're talking about the lockdown, the virus, everybody has come to a level playing field. Be it a Suryavanshi,
Yeah.
which is a big budget film, or a Chalang, which is your film. Every film has gotten delayed because obviously exhibitors have, have had to shut shop for briefly. There are no theaters open. But for example, announcements like, let's say, the examination, the CBSE examination, which has been put out by the government today, which has just come out, where we see things like this, do you see slowly, with obviously the right guidelines, there'd be some sort of an opening where even filmmakers like yourself will find, releases for their films?
We are hoping. I mean, how long can the industry be shut down?
Yeah.
Because it takes a toll on people's livelihoods.
Hmm.
It takes a toll on you. The economics become difficult for you personally. The economics become difficult to manage. So how long will you continue?
Even your video and audio both are clear. Earlier, the
Good.
video was a little hazy.
Okay, good. I'm glad it was easy.
But now we can see, the
That
little
I've not
weight that
shaved for
you
so
need to
many days.
shave.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I was talking about the fact that this one is going to be a new normal for a while to come till we see, a cure or a vaccine. How is
Yeah.
the industry really dealing with it? Because I had Shreya Dhanvantri on my live one of these days, and she has now, she turned director remotely, directed an entire series from the confines of her house, and now the
I
series
know, yeah.
is going to be getting out tomorrow. So,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, the industry is also resorting to these novel ways in the wake of
Yeah.
this virus, because not always can we sit in home and do nothing. And it's not just about the big producers or the big actors. It's also
Yeah.
about, the daily wage actors and the daily wage technicians. They need to actually
Yeah.
find work because they don't have any.
Yeah, no, it is a difficult. I mean, right now I am able to, I have my show, in which Shreya Dhanvantri is playing one of the lead characters.
Yes.
Which is the scam of '92
Yes.
on Harshad Mehta. So I am fortunately busy with the edits, and the positive side of it is that for the editing we have found a technological crack.
Okay.
Yeah, so we are editing on the cloud. It's fun. I mean, I'm having fun. Me and my editors are able to work online together from different places. uh, so I mean, it's a post production, it's a great way to adapt to the new normal. Working with my writers, working with my other colleagues, my editors and everyone, I think we are able to adapt much better to the new normal. uh, the I feel that in being constant personal touch, we often, I mean, I think there is we expend too much of physical energy commuting from one place to the other, when we could work like this very easily.
Right.
So I'm quite enjoying this. I mean, if I'm able to do my post production remotely from my village home, I'm very happy. So this is one positive
Yeah.
that I'm seeing out of this.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. There was a film I was supposed to begin in April. Uh, I've that has been delayed now indefinitely. So it's been delayed till shootings can commence.
Okay.
And being an independent filmmaker primarily, uh, I don't feel very restricted. If I have to shoot with 15 people in my crew or 20 people in my crew, I have done that. Shahid, City Lights were made with minimal crews. I can make films like that. I'm happy doing that. So that adjustment is possible, but that also has to begin. Unfortunately, the news we are hearing from Maharashtra, from Gujarat, from many of the states is not very good. Like we keep seeing data, and the data is quite alarming. I mean, it's not really safe for anyone to step out.
Right, right. Let's talk about how, while we are, because when I talk about you, I call the first thing that comes to anyone's mind is that content is king with Hansal Mehta. The fact that, we've had filmmakers, and I like how you still call yourself an independent filmmaker. You have worked with a skeletal crew, so you know the nuances and what is required to be done. So I would not say that this entire phase is completely new to you. Having
Yeah.
said that, we've had, back in the day, whether it is an Akira Kurosawa's Rashomon, where you had a single line story which was made into an entire film and it became a classic, or, a Wong Kar-wai in The Mood for Love, where you had the hues and, the beautiful camera work and everything talking. All these things which define content is what people are consuming and readily consuming. So do you think that this is the time which is also in a way like, there is always hope and there is always a silver
Yeah, I mean,
lining out of the dark
we,
clouds?
I think we can sort of reinvent our content.
Yeah.
I've been watching this show called Normal People.
Yes.
It's based on Sally Rooney's book, and I think it is a stunning show. I mean, it really makes me feel like going out there making a love story, and
Wow.
making the idea is to make these intimate stories, intimate character explorations. I mean, Shahid, the success of Shahid was that it was a very intimate film. You
Right.
felt
Right.
very connected to Shahid Azmi and his struggle, to his life, to his mm, you know his fight. So that intimacy, even City Lights, I mean, you felt sort of part of the family of migrants, husband, wife and daughter migrating to the city. Today, I mean, you're seeing those
Yes.
scenes repeating. Those
Yes.
people crossed over to Mumbai, and eventually they had to go back, and they said कि हम वापस नहीं जाएंगे. So, and that's what is happening today. And
Right.
these are things. I'm glad that that I told that story. It was like a warning sign. But those, unfortunately, we don't take those warning signals early on. We wait for the worst to happen, and then we say कि अरे यार देखो बोला था. We knew it, but it's always too late. And that's why, I mean, films are an important mirror to society. They don't change anything, but they mirror certain truths, which in turn, can bring about change in society.
The fact that it was not just you spoke about City Lights. I mean, it's a brilliant example. I would also take the example of your earliar film Dil Pe Mat Le Yaar. It also spoke
Yeah.
about the migrant issue in a
Absolutely.
way. So the fact that, I mean, and today we had this very distressing news of what happened in Aurangabad on the rail tracks,
Yeah,
where
and
you had migrant
you see,
workers.
Dil Pe Mat Le Yaar is one thing. I mean, I wish I could find a platform that gives me enough money to just digitize the film. The film, the negatives of the film have been kept in decent condition, and before they get too old, it's a 20-year-old film. I wish I could restore the film and have it out there, because it was an important script. It had raw edges, but it was an important script. Again, it spoke about the class divide. Very early
Yes.
on, it spoke about that class divide between the haves and the have-nots, between the migrant and the insiders. So those stories, I mean, as somebody who observes life and somebody who tries to mirror life through society, through cinema, I mean, those are stories that need to be seen, and I hope we make more such stories. At the same time, I'm very glad that I made a film like Chalang in times like this, where there's so much of despair, Chalang is a hopeful film. We should be making hopeful films that give us some hope in the for the future, and that celebrate the human spirit.
Yeah. So, if I'm not mistaken, the film was it had the working title of Turam Ha, which you decided
Yeah.
to call it Shalang later. Was it like a conscious decision because of the environment that we are living in, and you've been very, very
No, no,
vocal
no. I
about
don't.
whatever is
No,
happening,
no,
or
no,
it is just
no, no. Turam Khan is a term that is used. I mean, we felt it was a working title. So it just,
huh.
it kept getting announced. It was a working title for the film. While
Right.
we were making the film, we felt that the film could have a better, more apt title, and that was it. I mean, there was nothing more to it. There was no. I'm the first one. If it was changed for reasons of religion, I am
Yeah.
the first one to have gone out and protested. I would have refused.
Yeah.
But no,
Yeah.
it was all done for the right reasons. It was done
Right.
because we felt that the film needed a more apt title.
Mhm.
Turam Khan was very indirect. It was a great title, but very
Right.
indirect. It did
Okay.
not connect to the film's central story.
Okay, okay. So now, like you, as passionately as you speak about a Chalang or a Dil Pe Matle Yaar, you have also called out when you were not doing so well in your own right. I mean, when you were not able to assess yourself, at the level that you want to. So you probably call after maybe छल के बाद की जो फिल्में हैं उस फेज को आप कहते हैं they are not your best phase if I'm not mistaken because you were doing
And
those formulaic films and you took that hiatus also because your career and your filmmaking sort of prowess was not really going or where you wanted it to go.
yeah, I see. I mean, at that time when I was making those films, I did not realize
Hmm.
when you are in hospital and you're being
Hmm.
treated, you don't realize how serious you are.
Yeah.
It was that kind of a situation.
Okay.
You are constantly in the hope that yes, this is things are going to get better with doing this. You don't
Hmm.
get into something thinking कि ये मैं खराब काम करने जा रहा हूँ.
Hmm.
So it was
Hmm.
none of that. I mean, I got into those films. I made those films with a lot of hard work, a lot of passion. But
Hmm.
they eventually were terrible films because somewhere I was not invested in them
Hmm.
emotionally or on a socially conscious level. The reasons
Hmm.
for doing those films were different. They were
Hmm.
not honest filmmaking reasons.
Hmm. Okay.
They were not
Okay.
storytelling reasons. Yeah. So there was a dishonesty somewhere in those films. कि नहीं, I want to make this. ये चल रहा है तो ऐसी फिल्म बनाओ. वो
Hmm.
चल रहा है
Hmm.
तो
Hmm.
So I was trying to follow a herd, and if you're following a herd uh, in making films,
Hmm.
then you should have big stars with you. Unfortunately, those films did not have big stars.
Right.
So they had none of the crutches that were
Hmm.
required to make them successful.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I'm thankful. I mean, none of that happened. If those films had succeeded,
Hmm.
I would have been doing the same shit even now.
आपको क्या लगता है अगर आपने लेट्स से 10 कहानियां उस वक्त नहीं की होती एंड द
हाँ.
स्टोरी दैट यू पिक्ड अप इन 10 कहानियां हाई ऑन द हाईवे वाज आल्सो टेक फ्रॉम व्हाट यू डिड फॉर जी आई बिलीव हाईवे विशाल
Yeah.
भारद्वाज की वो कहानी थी सो व्हिच यू हैड डायरेक्टेड I remember Imtiaz did something similar when he picked up the script which he used for Alia Bhatt and Randeep's Highway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
he picked up a story from Z Rishte and he made it into a full-fledged film because that was a film close to his heart. But he did it at this time when he was able to do it and people actually revel in his kind of cinema. Do you think if you would have probably, the content that you've always wanted to do and, picking up your past associations because you started way back from Khana Khazana days, if you wanted to actually pick up stories from then and make it now, you would have more takers?
Well, Das Kahaniya, was not something that I'm unproud of. I like. I mean, it was a good experiment. There were some really good films in Das Kahaniya,
Yeah.
and I was also heading the production company White Feather Films that made Das Kahaniya. So we were
Acha.
proud of it. I mean, it had Meghna Gulzar had sort of disappeared, and it sort of saw the emergence, the re-emergence of Meghna Gulzar as a, fantastic storyteller. And she said, I mean, her story was very, very powerful. You know, also, I mean, what the stories that Sanjay Gupta told in that,
Yeah,
some of
yeah.
them were very, very good. And it told you that Sanjay Gupta could be making much more than what he has made in the past. He's the king of all these gangster dramas and style and other things. But there's a sensitive side to him, which Das Kahaniyan helped explore. I picked up High on the Highway because that story, unfortunately, was told in the 90s. I felt I could sort of retell that story, and it was not. We had tried in between to rewrite Highway as a feature film, and the premise kept getting stretched. So I felt this was an opportunity to retell the story. It was not an entirely successful attempt, but I was happy with what I did. It was quite edgy. It was shot pretty well. Interesting performances. It was a nice. It was a good attempt. I mean, it was slightly ahead of its time. Even Highway,
Yeah.
when it was made in 94,
Yes.
95, it was ahead of its time.
Yes.
Dil Pe Mat Le Yaar was a story that was told ahead of its time. So वो ठीक है अभी. Sometimes you live with the curse of being ahead of your time.
But don't you think filmmakers have always, they are only recognized much later? Be it Mahesh Bhatt when he made Zakhm, people talk about it now and it gets more recognition. Your Aligarh, I mean, once Section 377 was decriminalized is when people started waking up to that reality that, okay, fine, this was a powerful piece of cinema. Obviously, it got all the critical acclaim that it did. It was a successful film. Manoj's role and even Rajkumar was really appreciated, but
Manoj,
थोड़ा delayed होता है.
they delayed matlab they ignored. The thing is, you see, they ignored Manoj completely. They ignored the film and Manoj completely at all at the national awards, even at the popular awards. Manoj won
Yeah.
awards, but I think the film overall, I think got a bit of a raw deal everywhere. But yes, when at the turn of the decade, it was there on most credible lists of films
Yes.
that
Yes.
defined the decade. So I mean, ultimately, your work gets recognized. I am just fortunate that it's happened while I'm alive. There are filmmakers whose work we have celebrated much after they are gone,
Yeah.
and I find that, I mean, it's fine. I mean, it's a legacy, but I find that very, very pointless. I mean, come on, celebrate the filmmaker while he's alive. It helps him. It's oxygen. It's oxygen for a filmmaker. To understand his film in his lifetime is oxygen for the filmmaker. It allows him to tell you many more stories, to make many more films.
And it's an important encouragement also. The fact
Yeah.
that you decided to take that hiatus, was it a forced one when you actually stopped making films till 2013 and that's when Shahid happened?
We started Shahid in 2011, actually. I took that hiatus in 2008.
Yeah.
So that was 3 years. Yeah, well, I had decided to take it for 6 months. I said, I'll take a break. It was like this lockdown where I came. And this is the same place. The place I am in right now is the place where I came for that so-called, for that short sabbatical. But that sabbatical extended for 3 years and for various reasons. I mean, it was also in that period, I was trying to make Omerta, actually. I had written Omerta at that time. So I was trying to make that film, and I wanted to cast actually. There were two actors, who both of whom my friend Rasool Pokuti was trying to get me in touch with them. So one was Riz Ahmed, and the other was Dev Patel
Okay.
to play Omar Sheikh. But
Okay.
I could not get in touch with them, and ultimately I realized that no Indian producer was going to put money on either a Riz Ahmed or a Dev Patel, and no Indian producer is going to put a money on my film. So that long hiatus sort of continued for a longer time. And in the meanwhile, the story of Shahid came to me. I had had enough of a break, enough of introspection to know that I had to begin my life afresh. I began from zero. So what it helped me do is begin from, sort of restart, reboot my life. So this lockdown, in a sense, has been another reboot. I mean, it's been, uh, a bit of a roller coaster of, 2016, 2017, and to some extent 2018. I mean, these 3 years have been roller coasters. Uh, where I've been working a lot, but not everything has been entirely satisfying. Like, I mean, Simran was, I wouldn't call it a very happy or satisfying experience. So I've been through those ups and downs. I mean, Simran took a toll on my health also. Physically, it took a toll on my health at that time. Mentally, it took a
Is
bit
it
of a toll on
is
me.
it because you were not being able to get that creative way out, and there were a lot of difference of opinion
I
between
think
actors? What was
No, I think it the variety of factors. I mean, I don't want to get into them at this stage.
yeah.
It's over. For me, it's the past. I've moved on beyond that. But yes, I mean, there were a variety of factors. Eventually, what hurts you the most is that you did not make the film that you wanted to make, and uh, you and that has happened because of situations that were way beyond your control. The film also did not do what it did not achieve the potential that it could have. And there were many good things about the film, and it did not achieve its fullest potential because it was covered in this cloud of negativity.
Controversy? Yes, yes.
Of cloud of negativity. There's so much negativity around the film that I mean, I also sort of that energy sort of came into me also. It was not a very good phase. But yeah, but
Okay.
at the same time there was, I had finished Omerta. Omerta premiered the week that Simran released. I had premiered Omerta at the Toronto Film Festival, and
Yes, yes.
it had opened to great reviews. Then I made, I was part of Bose, Dead or Alive, which is one of Rajkumar's, very important performances. So as a creative producer in that
Yes.
show, I also got to mentor a director who is now become like, he's like my son, like a family. Pulkit, very promising director. So I got to mentor him to be able to come out with something that we were proud of. Again, uh, exceptional Rajkumar Rao performance in Bose Dead or Alive. So
Right.
that sort of, so every dark cloud has a silver lining. So in that Simran phase, I think Bose Dead or Alive came as a silver lining, and later on Omerta, I mean, it was a silver lining, which was very deeply embedded in a dark cloud.
So the jinx actually, which you wanted to make Omerta way back, like you were mentioning with the other actors, that did not work out. And when it finally worked out, the film, not many people could watch it. When a filmmaker decides to probably, I mean, I don't know, I just wanted to understand what are the intricacies when, like you were mentioning, how you want to release Dil Pe Mat Le Yaar on a digital platform. When you have a producer involved, what is it that you have to go through as a filmmaker? Because eventually it is your creative product, but the money is involved with somebody else. If you have to actually put that film out there, what is that process, and how do you go about it?
See, Dil Pe Mat Le Yaar, fortunately, I am one of the producers,
Huh, huh.
and the other co-producers are my friends. But I mean, we don't have right now. All of us are doing different things. I'm making movies and directing. Both of them have sort of not been active in the film industry for years. One of them is my childhood friend. He made the film because he believed in it, because he believed in me. It was just something that two childhood friends got together and did. So the deal between us is that we'll put it out, but somebody has to pay for all the restoration. It's something that I cannot afford to invest in. And maybe somebody else will have a demand that it should fetch some money. I don't know what value it will fetch right now, but one of the things I would definitely like is that the film is seen in its original condition, the way it was shot. It was designed in a particular way, and it's an important story to tell at this time. With Simran also, I mean, forget all the emotional fallouts. Financially, Simran has been very hard for me. Uh,
Okay.
I signed a paper again in good faith, and I'm paying for it.
Okay.
I'm paying for a film that I'm not even ready to own completely.
Also, during this lockdowns, I was mentioning about a lot of content that is coming from home because nobody has any other option. I actually am reminded of Ram Gopal Verma's Con, which also had Manoj Bajpayee and Urmila Matondkar. The film was actually shot within the premise of a house, confines of a room, and even that was made possible. Obviously, there was a crew and a proper budget involved, but filmmakers have resorted to content like that also. Do you see more and more of that kind of content coming in because you don't have any other option or choice?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. People, I mean, we are a industry of very resourceful and very, very smart storytellers. So,
Yes.
I mean, there's a whole breed of filmmakers who thrive on these kind of challenges. Give me a small unit, give me new actors, give me a smaller budget, we'll make a great film. So I'm one of them. I mean, I thrive on it.
Right.
So does somebody like Anurag. So does Anubhav Sinha 2.0.
Yeah.
So does perhaps a Neeraj Ghewan. So does perhaps Vikram Motwani. All of them thrive on these challenges. So I think we are up to it. But I mean, we should be safe enough to begin first in the first place.
Also, you
So
guys as filmmakers in an industry have also signed this petition. I mean, this is something that is very serious and needs to be also spoken about. And I wanted to ask you also the fact that Delhi police went about detaining students and social activists, and there was a petition by the industry where you had the likes of yourself, Ratna Pathak Shah, Anurag, all these people uh, calling it out. Things like these happening when we are in lockdown, while we have a virus, a pandemic upon us. How do you see this? And what do you have to say about it, especially in the wake of anti-CAA protests or the Northeast riots?
no, it's. I mean, I signed that because yes, it upset me to even know. When I read the petition, I realized that in the wake of all this tension, there is this parallel harassment of activists and protesters.
Yeah.
People who did not, who had an anti-CA stance. I mean, what is their crimes to have protested? So when I saw that, I mean, it really upset me. It upset me that the government, instead of taking care of its people, is actually still busy trying to suppress dissent. And why are they so scared of dissent? This is a majority government. They have come in with a sweeping mandate. They have 4 years left, and why does dissent make them so uncomfortable? Are they uh, are they dictators? Is this a dictatorial regime that dissent makes you so uncomfortable? So I mean, I feel sad that that they are so hypersensitive to dissent, and that they treat dissent with uh, this kind of action. I mean, the arrest of those intellectuals, Gautam Daulakha, Anand Teldumde, all of that. I mean, it upsets you. It
Also, sir,
upsets you
while
that
in the yeah,
you,
yeah,
you don't feel free. You don't
yeah.
feel free to express yourself in these times, and that is it's not a good sign for democracy. That's all.
Also, while we were in the lockdown, you also had your birthday, but it was a very, very somber affair for you because you lost a friend also on that day. You penned a very, heartfelt note. I mean, I have known Irfan personally. Your memories of Irfan, if I may ask, what you take back from and what have you, I mean, the fact that you could not work together on a film, but still.
I will always, that regret will always remain. We spoke number of times. We would, I would visit him. We would talk. He would say, कि चलो इस बार ना करते हैं, मजा आएगा, and it never happened. It never happened. But I have fond memories, and his legacy lives on. He was such a, such a fine actor. Again, what saddens me is, yes, he was celebrated in his lifetime, but we have recognized some of his great performances after he's gone.
Yeah.
And he was the greatest actor we've never had. Who we will never see living up to his full potential. There was so much more that Irfan had left to do. It's such a vacuum that he has left behind. And my birthday now is indelibly linked to his to the anniversary of his passing away. So somewhere it reminds you of the circle of life and death.
Yeah. Also, we have a lot of people who are joining, sir. Let's just take a couple of questions before we say Tata. There's Akshay, sabse bade badmaash public. Okay, I'll have to read some questions first. What is your favorite film of Irfan's? This is Hassan who's asking this question.
My favorite film of Irfan. There are so many performances of Irfan that are outstanding. I think Maqbool is my favorite Irfan Khan film. I thought Maqbool was spectacular. I loved Irfan Khan's, there's a short film which you will find on Star Bestsellers called Ek Shaam Ki Mulaqat.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
And that, I think Irfan was outstanding. And I remember I was shown the rough cut of that.
Okay.
The producer, Sunil Doshi, had shown me the rough cut. I saw it and I asked him for Irfan's number. I spoke to him. I said, what an actor you are. And he was also very new. I was also very new. And those were, heady. It was 1998. I called him and I was like completely blown away to see that there was an actor who gave you a performance. See, the thing is, I started making films at a time when acting was approached and interpreted differently. And, people always would criticize me for not interpreting acting the way popular cinema would. I saw acting as a more internal process. And so when I saw actors like Manoj, Irfan at that time, I used to feel that, when we have such great actors, you had Om Puri, Nasir Bhai, Pankaj Kapoor, you wanted to make films with those actors, but you were told that, you should make a film with XYZ, and whose performances were just noise. Anger was noise, romance was noise. So it was, I'm sort of a product of the dichotomy. And in that dichotomy, you had somebody of the caliber of Irfan Khan.
Right.
Yeah, so that Ek Shaam Ki Mulaqat, I would recommend whoever has not seen it to go to, YouTube pe, on Hotstar you will find it. It's on Hotstar, Disney Plus, it's under Star Bestsellers.
I also wanted to talk to you about your cooking skills, sir, and the fact that your blog has different facets of your personality. One of them, which actually intrigues me, it's called anger. The other one's called rant. The other one's called foodie. So you have these facets that you have, and you keep writing religiously to your blog also. So yeah, Vishal wants to know more about that.
I love making food. Cooking is it's an extension of filmmaking. Filmmaking is a very meditative process. So is cooking. Cooking is also very, very meditative, and it's very similar. You cook for an audience, you make films for an audience. You're creating something for an audience. Cooking gives you instant gratification. You make the food, and the people who are closest to you, the people you love the most, eat it. They appreciate it. It's sort of instant gratification for your creation. Films, unfortunately, after you make them, you sort of lose contact with the people who watch them. but I really want to make a love story. And after watching Normal People, I feel, you see, the uh, became a filmmaker because I wanted to make love stories. I started my career making love stories. So, my first work of fiction was for something called Love Stories on ZTV. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did four or five love stories. They were very delicate, soft, and I never, when I was I was doing fiction on television, and I did a lot of short fiction. Nobody ever wanted to give me a thriller or wanted to give me a drama.
Okay.
Everybody wanted me to make love stories. I was the love story specialist. And it's such an
Okay.
irony that somebody who's seen as a love story specialist, somebody whose love stories were really, I mean, I'm very proud of those love stories. They're very delicate. They're very delicate,
Mhm.
very soft. I mean, they feel like very contemporary today. They were not love stories as they were made that time. You couldn't compare those love stories with a DDLJ.
Okay.
But,
Okay.
those love stories, but the irony is, I have not made a single love story in my entire career.
Yeah, I mean,
16
in fact, that's
films.
what I wanted to. Yeah, so many films, but you never really got the right time, or you thought that, अब
I
नहीं,
never,
I'll do it later.
nahi, matlab, it's just so happened that, as a filmmaker, my early films reflected social realities. I made a film called Chal, which was a thriller. Then I made a sex comedy, and then there was a phase where I made a lot of trash. And then after the trash, again, I got into dramas and I made these films that reflected society. And those were important films. Those were stories that came from my consciousness. I had to tell them.
Yeah.
So in many ways, the closest I could be to a love story is, every film of mine has had some sort of a love story.
City Lights also
Where
was a, yeah,
City
yeah,
Lights was a very, very passionate love story. So was, I mean, Shahid, the love story between Shahid and his wife Mariam. It was a very
yeah,
sweet
yeah.
love story. You can see my ability to tell love stories. If there's any producer watching, you can see it in those films. I mean, I think Aligarh was a great love story.
Yeah,
It was a
yeah.
love story in at many layers. It was a love story
Mm.
between two friends, Manoj and Rajkumar, their
Yes.
characters. A love story between those two people of a friendship that they were developing. It was a man's love story with his own loneliness, a man's love story with Lata Mangeshkar. It was the director's love story with his actors.
Yeah.
So, they were at many levels. It was somewhere uh, a story of the writer Apurva Astani's own, uh, you know, uh, his own love story somewhere poured out into a script.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of
Romance of
love.
filmmaking. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of love
Uh,
in that film.
do you think you have also, gotten this thing, I mean, gotten in sync with doing web series and, from your telly days, after Bose DOA to now with Scam 1992, you'll continue to make more web series in
Yeah, yeah,
future?
yeah. I love that medium. I I enjoy directing for the web because there's a chance to tell a longer story. I mean, it's a very, very time consuming process, but I get a chance to tell more. It's like the long form,
Hmm.
writing, like long
Hmm.
form storytelling, and
Hmm.
it's a great like way to explore characters, to tell story, a limited story in a longer manner. Films sometimes get limited to 2 hours. So, like the Harshad Mehta story, I mean, it's fascinating to explore the
Hmm.
character over 10 episodes. It's nearly 10 hours it's like, it's equal to nearly 5 films, 4 to 5
Right,
films.
right, right. Abhishek Srivastav is asking, can you tell us what makes you tell stories that can potentially invite criticism or controversy, whether it is Aligarh or Mehta or Shahid, yet you come out with a popular story which is loved by all?
Well, thank you. And I mean, you don't make films because you want to be criticized, but you have to be prepared for it.
Hmm.
If you have to, you want to be appreciated. So be thankful for the appreciation, but be ready for the criticism. Criticism is not easy to take. It is, it's a skill to be able to take criticism. I'm not great at it even now. but I work on it. I recognize that criticism will happen. So at that moment, you feel quite hurt. You feel like, the person who has watched the film has not got the film. Very often, I mean, the criticism that is unwarranted or sometimes plagiarized criticism, is something that is very hurtful. So very often, if there's a herd mentality. So if two big reviewers have reviewed the film, have interpreted my film in a particular manner, 20 other reviewers sort of repeat the same review. They repeat the
Yes.
same thing. There's nothing new. So if
Yes.
there's criticism which is telling you something new about your own work, I still welcome that. I just find unfounded, plagiarized criticism useless. It's useless, and it's there all over the net. The unqualified, plagiarized criticism. So I mean that is something. I noticed that during Omerta, where there was, I mean, a repeated similar criticism of the film. Yes, it might be. I mean, they might be right, but I felt it was borrowed. It was borrowed.
Right.
Two big reviews, and they borrowed from those reviews.
It's become pretty much like those tweets which you see tweeted by one person in the same language being used and tweeted again. Yeah, it's
Similar,
quite, it's
yeah. So
happening.
we have become more and more the herd mentality is sort of because we need to churn out so much in such little time. This is like become the instant gratification. So by the time you're watching a film, the person while watching only is writing the review. Yeah, I'll be the first one to come out with a review. So I mean, you're not giving yourself time to even interpret or absorb the film. I find it very, very stupid when somebody says, I'm making this film for a festival or I'm making this film for 200 crores. None of that. I mean, you cannot decide any of that. What you can decide, what you can control is how you make the film and how much you enjoy making the film.
But thank you so much for being a part of this session. It was really lovely talking to you again after a while.
Okay.
So you stay safe, sir, and I hopefully after this lockdown ends, I'll see you soon.
Okay, Griya. Good seeing you. Thank you. Bye.
Same here. Bye, sir. Bye.